When I walked into the house, my jaw dropped. Where's all the furniture? Even that really expensive bed is gone. I've got a great taste, right? I turned pale seeing my mother-in-law Brenda's self-satisfied expression. Brenda, did you do this? Sure did. I thought it looked better in our place, so I had it moved over. After all, how does a part-timer like you get to live in such a swanky condo just because you're married to my son? You're here because of him. Step out of line and I'll make sure the two of you split up. Got it? I tried to hold back my rage as I said, Do you realize what you've done? What do you mean? This isn't my apartment, and that furniture wasn't mine. Wait, what? Nick and I had been an item for some time. From our college days, he'd shower me with gifts, not just on special days, but anytime he felt like it. Just wanted to make you smile, he'd say, giving me a shy grin. It was one of the things I loved about him. Post-graduation, we tied the knot. We were the first in our friend group to do so, and the celebration was epic. Truly felt like the peak of happiness. Both of us had steady jobs, but after the wedding, Nick proposed I leave mine. I want to be the breadwinner. Just take care of the home and be there when I get back. The idea might have been a bit traditional, but I wasn't opposed to it. So I gave up my job, focusing on homemaking and eagerly waiting his return each day. But even with a spotless home, I had a lot of free time. Our place was a modest rental. Nick, being accustomed to a lavish lifestyle, sometimes felt it was a bit tight, but he understood I wanted to save, especially in the beginning. I adored our quaint starter home, but then one evening he showed me a listing of a luxury condo in our area, with rent nearly 10 times what we were paying. From the pictures, it looked worth the price, but with such a rent, we'd end up not having enough for a dinner like tonight. Isn't this place awesome? We'd have a way better life there, right? I see your point, but that rent's super high. I genuinely like where we are now. This place is better suited as storage. It's way too tight for us, but don't sweat the cash, I've got it covered. I thought our current place was way bigger than just a storage space, but I recognized we had different viewpoints on money ever since college. Seeing how much he wanted the change, I finally caved. Okay, if you're really set on it, let's do it. But I like to work part-time. I want to help out at least a little. I promise I'll always be back in time to cook, and it'll help me stay busy. Sound good? Even considering his hefty paycheck, I wasn't sure about managing the increased rent. There had to be another income stream, but it still gave me jitters. After I got the green light from Nick to work part-time, I came home one day to find him wrapping up our rental agreement on the phone. Once all the I's were dotted and T's were crossed, we made our move at the end of that month. While we hauled over everything from our old place, a few rooms in our new home remained bare. At first, the steep rent had me doing a double take, but the sheer size and coziness of our new place soon had me daydreaming about our life there. Not long after we settled in, Brenda, Nick's out-of-state mom, decided to pay a visit. To be honest, I never warmed up to her. From our engagement days, she's been kind of frosty with me. Maybe she thought I was stealing her baby boy. It seemed like she had a master's degree in finding faults, and she didn't hold back in our new home either. So, you got this swanky place and it's still not up to snuff. I understand you're used to smaller places, but my son deserves better. Can't you keep things neat? She went full-on soap opera star, doing the dust check routine and even going through our fridge. Nick mentioned your new part-time job, grinding all those hours for a mere $450. Instead of burning time, you could be primping up at a spa or something. You're strange. Clearly, Nick got his penchant for splurging from her. I mean, sure, if I were loaded, I'd be all over spa days and shopping sprees. But I wanted to stand on my own 2 feet, not just rely on his bankroll. I felt splurging should come from my hard-earned cash. Trying to get that across to Brenda was like talking to a wall. I usually just responded to her with a tight-lipped smile. When I turned to Nick for a little backup, he just brushed it aside, taking his mom's side. The whole thing started eating at me. Brenda became a regular, showing off and constantly digging at me. She'd never been keen on our old place, but with this upgrade, she paraded around like she owned the place. I was getting tired of her drop-ins. When I subtly mentioned she might be overdoing her visits, she let loose. I'm Nick's mom. He owns this place, so it's totally normal for me to be here. But you? Not so much. Have you seen your classy neighbor? Makes you look bad. Can't believe my son's stuck with you. She kept it up till Nick walked in. Hey Nick, sorry, but I couldn't get dinner ready. Mind if you and your mom get something delivered? I need some air. Instead of understanding, he just snapped.
Really? What were you up to all day? Mom's just looking out for you. Try being a little more appreciative.
All I said was, I'm spending tonight elsewhere. There was a decent hotel close by that didn't break the bank. Even though I looked pretty drained, Nick didn't bat an eye, choosing instead to chat with his mom about what to get for the delivery. I just needed to breathe. Coming back the next day around lunch, the entrance was clear of shoes, both Nick's and Brenda's. Looked like she'd finally cleared out. I let out a sigh since I had been prepping myself for another round of her critiques. But heading to the bedroom, I was floored. Where the heck was our bed? My mind raced to a possible break-in, but everything else was in place. Who'd just swipe a fancy bed and nothing else? On a hunch, I called Brenda, wondering if she knew something. Without batting an eye, she copped to it. So, problem? That bed was too high-end for someone like you. I did you a favor. It was in decent shape. I'll ship you my old one, a tad worn, but more your speed. Her smirk was almost palpable over the phone, and that was the last straw for me. I replied to her snide remarks with a big smile. I don't need such trash. Why don't you get rid of it at yourself? And you just take things without saying sorry? She snapped back. Who do you think you are talking to me like that? People always say you act so stuck up. Is that why nobody likes you? I replied, say whatever you like, but I want the bed back. She quickly said, whatever you own, Nick does too, so I can use it unless he has an issue. I calmly corrected her. The bed isn't actually ours. She was clearly shocked. What are you talking about? I broke the news to Brenda. I'm leaving Nick. So, you finally get it. I've moved all my stuff to my new place. That bed's a rental. You rented such a fancy bed? You're something else, taking advantage of Nick. He picked out that bed, not me. He always had to have the best. I then gave her some insight into her son's reality. From his college days, Nick lived on borrowed cash. He might have acted rich, but he was just careless with money. Even though his parents were well off, his own salary barely covered our living expenses. He'd always been borrowing or gambling away money. And yet, he insisted on fancy weddings and luxurious apartments. The bed? He rented that too. Nick's always been obsessed with the idea of seeming rich. He wanted me to stay home just to keep up appearances. Remember when you mentioned the stylish lady next door? Nick told me I should act more like her so he doesn't lose face. He said it with the same smile he'd use when buying me gifts. That day, I decided enough was enough and contacted a lawyer for the divorce. Well, thanks for everything, Brenda. That bed wasn't cheap. The rental company will bill you. Brenda, in a panic, replied, This is your fault. You should have told me. Come back and deal with it. This isn't a request, it's an order. You're still his wife. Not for much longer. To me, you're practically a stranger now, and if you're planning to come over again, you might want to make it quick. Given Nick's debts, this plate might not be ours for long. She was so shocked she dropped the call. I didn't bother waiting, just blocked her number. Alrighty, that should clear the air before the divorce. With that, I left Nick's place. I later heard he had been evicted. He bragged about paying everything off with his huge salary, but it was bound to happen. He moved into a tiny apartment way smaller than our first place. All his friends who lent him money abandoned him, and he was drowning in debt. Brenda, for all her airs, ended up having to buy the bed she took since it was damaged. The price? A cool $6,700. Even she distanced herself from her own son once she found out about his lies. He had lied about working for a top-tier company with a high salary. He'd been sending his parents $2,000 every month, all borrowed or gambled money. Once Brenda found out, she recognized his pathological need to show off and distanced herself. I might have a pleasant chat with her now, but I sure don't want to hear that voice again. Last I heard, Nick's all alone, cut off by family and friends. As for me and my modest new place, I admire my tiny cactus by the window. Even if I'm just working part-time and funds are tight, I plan to work full-time soon and save up. I'm content with the simple things in life, like finding joy in the little cactus. After all the drama, I felt relieved with my decision. Tonight, I might treat myself to some takeout. It's moments like these that make everything worth it. I excitedly looked for some food options, feeling lighter than I had in a long time.